Bondrewd, the novel. Sovereign of Dawn. Someone who values knowledge and understanding above all else. Described by Ozen the Immovable as an out-and-out reckless scoundrel, he is by far one of the most morally devoid white whistles we have met thus far. Setting all of this aside for a moment, some might argue that his discoveries have proven most invaluable. He was able to establish long-term base Eido front in the deepest part of the 5th layer, while securing a way down to the 6th. The most controversial thing he has done for the sake of advancement, however, was using children to experiment with the curse of the Abyss. These irredeemable actions are what we will be focusing on in today's video, so grab your popcorn, pull your body pillow close, and let's dive into the twisted mind of the Sovereign of Dawn. Bondrewd's story begins an unknown amount of time before the main story of Made in Abyss. Bondrewd was wanted for an unknown criminal offense in a foreign country, and a hefty bounty was placed on his head. He later became a cave raider despite his criminal past. Bondrewd's obsession with the Abyss had already begun to sprout at this point, and he had begun obtaining money to fund his unquenchable thirst for knowledge about the Abyss. These were, but were not limited to, selling drugs made through human experimentation and selling artifacts and relics. Bounty hunters would attempt to go after him, but one after one, they began to disappear. Eventually they stopped going altogether out of fear of the fate that awaited them if they approached him. 15 years before the main storyline of Made in Abyss, Bondrewd stole Zoaholic, a special grade relic that allowed the user to spread their consciousness throughout multiple bodies, which Bondrewd used to create the Umbra Hands, his extended consciousness that he uses as henchmen. 5 years after acquiring Zoaholic, he became a White Whistle when he was able to establish a very large, long-term operating base named Eido Front in the lowest part of the 5th layer, where he was also able to establish passage to the 6th layer using an ancient altar. However, this altar required a White Whistle to be activated. To acquire his White Whistle, Bondrewd sacrificed his original body to form his White Whistle, transferring his soul to one of his Umbra Hands. Despite his soul constantly moving from body to body as one body would die, his obsession with the Abyss would never fade. Sometime after these events, Bondrewd was experimenting with the curse of the Abyss to further the extent of his knowledge. During this experiment, he recruited children who were interested in uncovering truths of the Abyss and brought them to Eido Front. However, he conveniently left out the fact that they were going to be used as lab rats. This is where we are introduced to Nanachi and Mitty. After all the other children are expended, the only ones left are them. For his final test with this group, he used both Nanachi and Mitty to see if the bond they had would affect the outcome. In the end, he was correct, and the full weight of the curse was put on Mitty, making her lose her humanity. Nanachi, however, received the blessing, and was allowed by the Abyss to keep her humanity. Bondrewd saw this as a major success, and was further encouraged to continue his research. He recruited Nanachi to assist him in the experiments. In hopes of returning Mitty to human form, she accepted. However, she eventually ran away with Mitty because she could no longer stand the gruesome experiments on humans and her dear friend. At some point during these events, an Umbra Hand conceived a child, and Bondrewd raised her as his own, and he named her Prushka. We now skip to present day. Upon arriving at Eido Front, Reg, Nanachi, and Riko meet previously mentioned Prushka, who they find out is Bondrewd's daughter. Their arrival is actually praised by Bondrewd, who congratulated them on surviving the descent. All seems cordial at first until it is discovered that Bondrewd had been harboring malicious intent. While the children slept, the Umbra Hands kidnapped Reg and began to dissect and examine him. At this point, it seems Bondrewd's thirst for knowledge got the better of him, as he simply couldn't go without examining an Obad. The children escape and attempt to lay a trap for Bondrewd, which seems to work, but this is the first time we get to see how powerful he truly is, and the substantial arsenal of relics he possesses. These relics include cartridges, humans who won't be missed, used by Bondrewd to deflect the curse; Zoaholic, capable of planting the soul into another human and is capable of being shared among others. Shared perception allows him to view events through others. Stairway of Light releases a band of light that strikes any target the user focuses on and seeks out weak spots to ensure a hit. Shaker shoots darts from another artifact, Cursed Steel. If the steel touches you, the curse of the abyss is inflicted upon you. Far Caress, an elastic creature who can manipulate countless tendrils. Canopy Until Dawn, custom-made body armor for Umbra hands. And finally, Sparagmos, generates a mysterious blade of light that incinerates everything in its path without exception. Being armed with these impressive relics weren't enough, however, and he is defeated. He uses Zoaholic to transfer his soul and retreats back to Idofront, where he dissects his daughter and crams her into a cartridge. The next time he battles the children, he is on the defensive. He gets into a rather explosive battle with Reg, and they both drop down to the Garden of Dawn. However, Bondrewd is armed with the daughter that loved him so much, and knowing this, he begins to ascend back up, confident that Prushka is so devoted to him that she will take the full weight of the curse for him. He receives the blessing, and the fighting continues. However, in the moments before this, we see the first bit of humanity shine through for the first time. While standing in the garden, surrounded by the children who fell in the experiments, he reveals he remembers every child who was sacrificed for the sake of progression. Ultimately, he is bested, and with the dying words of his current body, he commends Nanachi and the children for besting him, and their ardent desire to go deeper. He reveals that his new aspiration is for them to continue down into the abyss, and leaves her with these final words. May your journey overflow with curses and blessings. The story of Bondrewd is enough to make some people's skin crawl. Murder, mutilation, betrayal, and abduction. Some may ask where it ends with Bondrewd. In Reg's words, someone like him would be irredeemable. Deep down though, Bondrewd isn't much different from any other cave raider. Most yearn for adventure and discovery, some for fortune, but not Bondrewd. He has an insatiable thirst for knowledge regarding the abyss. He isn't satisfied by just discovering, he needs to understand. He feels it is his obligation to make sure humanity is prepared for the next 2,000 years. This is how he justifies his experiments. Not only is he satisfying his need for understanding, but he is helping to ensure the world is ready for what is to come. Thus far it would sound as if he is evil, justifying it with poor reasons. But perhaps the scariest part about the Sovereign of Dawn is he actually still possesses empathy. Bondrewd's moral compass is so complex, where he is able to do these atrocious experiments on children and still possesses the empathy to understand their feelings and their pain. This would infuriate some, but he genuinely believes that they made a mandatory sacrifice, and he doesn't take this lightly. This is highlighted in the final fight, where he reveals that he actually remembers every child's name and every child's aspiration. In his mind, he is the harbinger of the new age, and these children's sacrifice was for the betterment of the human race in regards to understanding the abyss. Furthermore, Bondrewd may be the out-and-out scoundrel Ozen said, but not a single time in the manga or the anime, while he did omit the truth, did he lie when he spoke. When he complimented the children for besting him, when he told Nanachi of his new aspiration, and most importantly, when he spoke of his love for his daughter and the children who sacrificed their lives. When Bondrewd met the children early on at Idofront, he told Nanachi this. You're saying as if a family can only be made with blood relations. I do not think that is the case. A compassionate heart is what makes people a family. Blood does not help much in that regard. Love. It's love, Nanachi. His love for his daughter and his daughter's love for him was so strong that she took the brunt of the curse for him, allowing him to receive the blessing. That may seem very one-sided, but when he was bested, and Prushka became a life-reverberating stone, he allowed his only daughter, whom he truly loved, to go on the adventure she always wanted with Rico, even seeing them off to the 6th layer. Bondrewd's morality and perception of love may have been severely warped, but deep inside of him remains bits and pieces of his humanity. The major question now is, what happened to him? How did he devolve into a being so ruthless and his mind so distorted? If we remember back to Reg and Rico's first encounter with a white whistle, Ozan the Immovable, we see traits of Bondrewd in her. She is very blunt, she hates lies, and she is absolutely ruthless. Ozan's moral compass may be slightly crooked, but she still has a firm concept on right and wrong. She also has a firm grasp on what the Abyss is capable of doing to someone, and it is in what she says regarding this that sheds light on what most likely took hold of Bondrewd. Deep within it, the Abyss creeps into your mind. Eventually it'll get your body as well. Unlike the curse from the 6th layer, those don't manifest immediately. For every expedition, you'll stand at the precipice of death and insanity, twisting the skin off of your head. And then later on she says, "Do you have a conception of God? The people around here, you see, don't believe in God. Do you know what it is they believe in? The answer is this place, the Abyss itself." Bondrewd was never really morally correct from the start, but from what Ozan said, and how the Abyss takes an active approach when it comes to the curse, i.e. the birthday death disease, it's no wonder Bondrewd deteriorated so badly. He heard the beckoning call of the Abyss so many others hear, and answered. As he delved deeper, his thirst for knowledge and understanding grew. He established a base in the deepest part of the Abyss he could return from, and surrounded himself with extensions of his own soul, seldom coming into contact with anyone else. The effects didn't manifest instantly, but slowly over the 10 years he was down there. The curse creeped into his mind, warping his understanding of right and wrong. This in turn caused him to take drastic actions, devoid of any morality for what he believed to be the first steps in being prepared for the new age. Bondrewd lost sight of understanding this monster, and in turn, inadvertently became one himself. Bondrewd's story is an excellent example to all cave raiders, for if you gaze long into the Abyss also gazes into you.